Morning, Shivasa B'Tammuz. We'll have an easy tonus. Um, we're up to Daf Chav Hey, Kumlen and the Daf Gemara. We're up to actually the very top of the page. The segue from the previous Gemara to this Gemara is merely that the authors of the different opinions are the same. So this is a story by Yeshua. And what happened was that the Givon, which was a large city, ceded their authority over to the Bnei Yisrael, to Yeshua, and the Yidden who came in to conquer Yisrael. And then the king of Yerushalayim, Avnei Tzedek, and joined together with Hebron, and total of 5 different kingdoms, and they joined forces to attack Givon. Givon sent a message to Yeshua: help us. Now that we're subordinate to you, we've subjugated ourselves to you, help us. And Yeshua then was told by Hashem, don't worry, you will win. So Yeshua went to fight the war. And the pasuk says that they had these large stones, Avnei Borod, that came down from heaven. And in fact, the pasuk says that more people died from these hailstones than by the sword. And then Yeshua turns around and says the following pasuk: Vayidam Hashemesh, the Shemesh became still. Vayidam also means silent, as the Mefarshim explains. Rashi explains here as well that the Shemesh and all of the celestial bodies are constantly saying Shira to Hashem, but Yeshua said, stop saying Shira. When you don't move, they only said Shira while they were on the go. Stop moving, so you'll stop saying Shira, and I will say Shira in your place. And what happened was the sun stood still and the moon stood still until they were victorious. So, the question of the Gemara is, how long did the sun stand still for? How long was this miracle for? And this is a miracle that was universal. The entire world witnessed it, because the sun stands still, and everybody sees that. So Vayida Hashemesh, the sun became quiet or stood still. The Yoreach Aman, the moon also stood still. Ad Yikam Goy Oivav, until they conquered their enemies. And then it says, Haloi Hiksuva Sefer Yosher. All this is recorded in the Sefer HaYosher, which we're going to learn. Sefer HaYosher is the Torah, as we'll soon see. And over there it says that the sun stood in the middle of the rest of the pasuk is, which we're going to focus on, that the sun stood b'chatzi shemayim, amid of the way of the heaven, and it didn't want to continue going. And we're going to learn there's 2 different time periods. One is in the middle of the day, and one is when the sun has to set. It didn't desire to go. Kayayim Tamim, for a full day. Now, what exactly took place a full day is what the Gemara will discuss. So let's first go here. What sefer is this? The sefer of Avraham Yaakov. This is the sefer of the Torah, written by Avraham Yaakov, that discusses, not written, but it discusses the stories of Avraham Yaakov. Shenikri Yisharim. They're called the righteous ones. So we just began the Gemara about Shemesh Begivin Toim. And right, so Yeshua has now said the sun stood still, and it's written in Sefer HaYosher. So 5 lines on the top of the page. What's the Sefer HaYosher? We said this is the Sefer written that describes the story, the history of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and it's called Sefer HaYosher because they're righteous people. And last week's Parashat Balak, Bilam described them, Tamus Nafshi Moshe Sharim. I wish I can die like Moshe Sherman, the righteous ones. He's referring to Avraham Yitzchak. Okay, the Heicher Miza. Where in the Torah is there any allusion to this? What happened with Yeshua, which is in Tanakh? Says the Gemara. You know where it says? It says V'zaroi. That his children, his offspring, that will be Yeshua, is Malaya Goyim, will affect the entire world. When the sun stood still, the whole world saw it. Now the pasuk continues. The sun stopped in middle of the heaven. The loy ate slava and didn't want to continue going any further. Coming for a full day. So we're going to learn that there's 2 different periods. There were 2 miracles there. One is stopped noontime, chatzi shemayim, and the second time it stopped as lavi. Lavi is when the sun sets. If you just said again, that means it stopped in the middle of the day, and then it started going again, and then it came towards the evening, and again it stopped. The Kiyayim Tamim. What was like a Yayim Tamim? So a few opinions here. Number 1, the Kama Shema Levi, first opinion. Now again, the segue is because we had some of these opinions before, some of these authors before. Rabbi Shema Levi says 24 hours was the entire episode. What do you mean? Ozal Shis, it traveled for 6, become Shis, and it stopped for 6. Ozal Shis, and then again started continuing traveling afternoon, become Shis, and it stopped for 6. In other words, the entire 24 hours was light. Half of it was like midday, noontime, and half of it was like, towards dusk. But it was 24 hours of noon. Kula Milska Yom Tamim. The entire event was like one Yom Tamim. Rabbi Lazar says, and we had his opinion before what song the Potter sang. So here he argues as well. The total story took place 36 hours. You know why? Because 24 hours of miracle and 12 hours of normal. What happened? It traveled for 6 hours, which is normal. It come trace, it paused for 12 hours. Noontime. Then Azal Shisa continued another 6 hours in the afternoon. Become Teresa. Then it stopped there. Pause for 12 hours. Is Amidasa Kiyam Tamim. It paused for 24 hours. We'll say, what's Machlekes? I think the Machlekes is as follows. In Chassidus, it has an interesting discussion. When the Eibishter made the mark of dam, the mark of blood, right? So the water turned to blood. There's two ways of understanding what happened. Is the pshat, the water itself essentially was still water, but there was an overarching miracle that forced it to behave like blood. Or the pshat is the Eibishter changed the nature of the water, that the water became blood. And that's the machlekes. That's the normal traveling of the sun on that day. Was that miracle or was that nature? In other words, what happened here? 6 hours the sun traveled normally, and then 6 hours the sun paused, and then 6 hours traveled normally again. The 6 hours that it traveled normally again. What happened when it paused? When it paused, was that a miracle? Was that a miracle, or with the pause itself was that the sun changes nature? Sun naturally travels. Now the sun naturally stood still. If you're going to say that the sun changes nature, therefore the first 6 hours was natural to travel. The next 6 hours became natural to stand still. The next 6 hours became natural to travel, and the next 6 hours became natural still. The entire 24 hours was a miracle, or one story at least. It's one story. The other way of learning is that no, that the water essentially is the same. Nothing changed in the water. There was something overpowering the water to behave, to stop and stand in one place, holding it back. Same argument we have by the Yamsuf. What happened to the Yamsuf? Did the water change nature, or the water was just being held back? So if you're saying that the sun itself didn't change its nature, but something holding it back, then the miracle was only during the time it held back. So that's the machlekes. And use kiyayim tamim. So that's why we have to have different hours. Maybe. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, says, it was a total of 48 hours. How? Also, when it says Kiyam Tamim, is the second pause was Kiyam Tamim, but the first pause is less. So also she's traveled for 6, become 3, says stop for 12 hours. Also she traveled 6 hours, become Esim Abon. The second time it's pause for 24. Kiyam Tamim was talking about the second time, because that's what the pasuk says. It says Loy Atzlava Kiyam Tamim. Kiyam Tamim is only referring to Loy Atzlava, the time that the sun is meant to set. That was 24 hours. So it says Loy Atzlava Kiyam Tamim. Mekaldi Mikara Lav Kiyam Tamim. But the first time the pause is less, 12 hours. So a total of 36 hours. By the way, this whole event, the Radak says, happened either as Chodesh Tammuz or Gimel Tammuz, or Gimel, and the Medrash said that happened on Gimel Tammuz. This whole story of Shemesh Begimel, of everything paused, and learn into that. Ikadamri, others say, but perceptibly, they're arguing the extra hours, in additional hours, and that is as follows. In other words, the extra hours over a normal 24-hour day is what they're arguing about. Shubalevi says, Esim 24, Ozil she's become Teresa. It traveled 6 and then stopped for 12. That's new. The stopping was not part of the day, so that's 12. Also, she's become Teresa. So there's a 24-hour extra to the normal day. So that's what happened. 24 hours of standing still, then all the extra hours, 24 hours a day. Rabbi Lezer says, Shleishim v'sheis, 36. Ozil Shis, what do we mean? Went 6, become Teresa, pause for 12 hours, that's new. Ozil Shis, traveled 6, become Esim Abon, then it stopped for 24. So 24 and 12 was new extra hours, 36. And the second time, it didn't want to go for Yom Tamim. And Shmuel Bar Nachmani Amar, Shmuel Nachmani, because he was there before, says, Aboim v'shmoina 48. Also, she's become Esim Abon, posted 24 hours. That's extra hours. Also, she become Chavdalan. Makish Amidosul b'Yosef. Just like the second miracle, 24 hours, so to the first. All the Jewish astronomers, they work out that sometimes some of the calculations that they want to make today about certain things in astronomy, which doesn't fit in with the Torah, they say that this, if they would believe in what it says over here, that the world stands so still, and that affects everything. Yeah, it threw everything off, and therefore it makes. And they use it, and I didn't understand. So I have to tell you right now when I read it, but somehow or another it explains a lot of things. And they explain each opinion how it has different bearings on what's going on in the outcomes. Time we learned, just like the sun stood still for Yeshua, Moshe stood still for Moshe and Akdim Ben Gurion. Akdim Ben Gurion is a famous story having Martinus that there was no water available, so he went and bought water in all these wells, and he promised the guy that if Hashem doesn't fill you up your wells again by a certain time, I'm going to pay you a substantial amount, exorbitant amount of money. And there was a drought, it didn't rain at all. It was mamish the day, and the guy already came to collect the money. There was not a cloud in the sky, even though the time wasn't over. And Akdim went in to cry to Hashem. So, and the sun was already setting. Suddenly it became overcast, and all the wells filled up. The guy says, "Too late. It's my time," because the sun was going down just as the clouds came in. He went in diving again, and suddenly the clouds disappeared, and the sun was out there bright like the middle of the day. So the sun stopped because of him. Obviously, you can understand what kind of tzaddik he was. And Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, we're in the Torah we find Moshe Rabbeinu. We'll see in a minute. Yeshua Karoi, which is had the classic. Like in Begurian Gemara. It's a tradition. But the Moshe Menolim, where do we find the remez in the Torah about Moshe? So the Gemara asks you, we learn out. Over here it says in the pasuk that in by Dvarim it says Ochel Teis Pach Chavi I will bring out your fear over all the going the world, the sif and the eggs of the world. Uksiv Hasan by Yeshua, and says there by Yeshua Ochel I will start Gadlecha to make you great by the eyes of the Yidden. So Ochel to tell you the what that the same great miracle happened by Yeshua happened by Moshe. The son pausing. Here it says Ochel Teis Pach to give. Uksiv Yeshua B'Yom Teis Hashem, the day that Hashem will give over to you the goyim. No, then the first day of Shabbat is the Eden are loyal to Yeshua, and we learn out like the Shabbat to the goyim. What do you call it? Moshe Rabbeinu overcoming the goyim. In the second one, taste, it's Yeshua overcoming the goyim versus Moshe overcoming the goyim. And there must be some shot behind that. For the pasuk itself, it says in the pasuk, I'm going to give you fear, and it says there, Asher Yishmu, and the goyim will hear, Shemachal hear about your name, and the Rogzul will get angry, Chol will be scared. When do they all get scared? When they all see the miracle. Amazai Rogzul Chol Menachel Shadamzul Lechamal Moshe the sun star. Is in the Ralbag on the Tanakh. The Ralbag was a philosopher, but the Ralbag on Tanakh on the story, he has a very strong question, and therefore, and I don't know how he exactly learns about the story of Yeshua. He says this miracle is greater than Kriyas Yamsuf. The sun should stop in its way, which affects the entire world. Kriyas Yamsuf was you work with the things below him, it's like immediate right in front of you. This is the entire world is affected. So Yeshua is greater than Moshe. So why do you say like come Navi Moshe the Isis of Moshe that he did? Yeshua was greater. Zweitens, if Moshe also made the sun stop, he says, why didn't I say Mefurish? It was the greatest miracle Moshe would ever have done. And yet no mention of it. You have to have a Gzeda Shavah. So he therefore learns, that's how he does it. It never happened. The sun never posed. Yeah. And he learns it, and he says when it says that never happened before and after, it's talking about the Muhammad. And in fact, look at the pasuk, it says that the Muhammad never happened. The miracle was the hailstones that came down. And the sun, nothing really happened here. And which is extraordinary. I guess he's trying to learn pshat like Rashi doesn't know Chumash. Pshat doesn't matter what like Ibn Ezra said. He learned pshat doesn't matter what Chazal say. In a way, he just learned pshat. But this is in Tanakh. Meisvel has a question. That's a good question. It says, by Yeshua, it says it was never like this before and after. So we tell me it happened by Moshe. The Gemara itself asks, how can it happen by Moshe? So you say Moshe should have it, not Fiskula. But it's a few minutes maybe by Moshe, not as long as by Yeshua. Or you say Avnei Borid lo have it. What it says it never happened before and after was Avnei Borid. It says by Hebrew Nus and Bnei Yisrael, when they were running away, fleeing from the Eden, they were running down this pathway in Beis Chayden. Hashem stoned them from heaven. So therefore, that is what never happened before or never happened after, but nothing to do. So therefore, it's not a problem. Why how can it be a Moshe happen as well? How can it be a Moshe happen as well? But in the pasuk it says, Ki Hashem nilchem liyisrael. Says that Ralbag, that's what never happened before. That Hashem, it was clear Hashem was fighting because the Avnei Baruch came down. That's nothing to do with the sun of the mobile. Maybe it happened, it didn't happen, but that wasn't a big event. Anyway, now another machlekes, random machlekes, but how to learn Pshat. See, it says you have to teach Bnei Yehuda after all the shoftim died. There's nobody around. So we have to teach Bnei Yehuda keshes, how to fight with a bow and arrow. In Iksuva Sefer Yosher, Sefer Yosher. First of all, my Sefer Yosher, Sefer Rabbi Yechon, says Sefer before. The Sefer Yaakov, Shnikri Yisharim. So it says Thomas Ashim Yisharim. Bilam said, "But I wish my life would be like them. My end will be like that." Where does it show that Yehuda will become the warriors and will become archers? Yehuda, after Yeducha, the brothers will praise you. Yadcha, your hand, but on the back of your enemy. You sort of have to lift the arrow to equal to the spine, to the medulla, in the back of your neck, which is like the top of your shoulders, to be able to throw an arrow. So therefore, that's what it means. What kind of war? Which weapon do you use that you have to raise it to that point? Didn't have missiles, great throws, all that. So it was an archer. Rabbi Lezer says a Sefer Mishnah Torah. You know what Sefer Yosher is? Is Mishnah Torah. That's what Sefer Yosher is. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it. My call Sefer Yosher. Why call Sefer Yosher? And actually, it says in the Forshim that, again, not here, but in Tanakh, that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a sefer. He kept a diary, a personal diary of the whole time he was in Midbar, and that sefer was called Sefer Yosher, sefer written by Yosher, which is Moshe Rabbeinu. And it got lost. It was Man HaGolus. You should do what's just in the eyes of Hashem, which is the Chumash. And the Heichot means where the Remez in Dvarim was also a bracha that Yehuda will become the archer. It says the Yod of Ravloi, that his hands will be everywhere. And he needs both hands. Yod Dov. So we're focusing on the Yod Dov. Which weapon do you need both? So you only have to use one hand. Must be Haviyam is a keshes. You have to hold the bow and arrow. Shmuel Achmei again, a Shmuel Achmei we had before. Zeh Sefer Shaitim. You know what Sefer Yosher is? That is actually Sefer HaYosher. Sefer is Sefer Shaitim. My Korah Sefer Yosher. It says by Yomehem Ein Melabistro. Isha Yosher made of Yasa. Here Yosher is only a negative term. That it means everyone did whatever they wanted. It was chaos. Mayhem. Everyone did whatever they want. Anarchy. The Heichot of Mizan, where the them is there at all that Yehuda was going to take over. But it says in the pasuk, "Lemandas Deidas," that the generations they will know. What do you call it? It says, "Lemandas Deidas ben Yisrael lamda Muhammad. Based on Muhammad should see chalimut haviyem ezukashes. I will teach them a war. And which war do you need to learn? That is, what you have to learn a skill is kashes. Umenolon the Yehuda. See, I know that Yehuda is the one who was going to learn how to do archer. See what it says. Now that Yeshua passed away, not the Shoftim. Now that Yeshua passed away, who is going to lead us? Yehuda will go ahead and will lead you. So now talking about these opinions. So Shmuel Malachmeni will give another argument and understanding Psukim Shmuel Malachmeni. It says over there in pasuk. That the butcher lifted the sheikh, the thigh, and alel, what's on top of the thigh? And the Noshal had this animal eating it. Whether it was a korban shlamim, whether it was tam chulin, but he treated it because he ate al taras hakodesh. So he ate the thigh and what's on it. They put it on the before show. My valiyah, what's on top of it? What do you mean when it says valiyah? Top of the sheikh. What part of the anatomy of the animal are we talking about here? The tail, which sticks out another end. My va'alya, the mesamcha sheikh va'alya, because it's very close, the thigh to the tail. Rabbi Lezer, that's what's called va'alya. Rabbi Lezer says sheikh the chazeh and the breast. My va'alya, why is on top of it? The mochas are the chazeh the sheikh. When you go ahead and you wave it you have the chazeh and the sheikh. These are, even though they're not touching each other in the animal, but when you give it to the kohenim, they're matnas kahuna. You sort of wave it around, and therefore. It says sheikh rola when you after you excise it from the animal. And Shmuel Achmeni sheikh the shufi, the thigh and the cap that goes on top of the thigh. My valiyah shufi alay the sheikh goes on top of the thigh. Then the Mishnah Vaita like this. A woman should not be alone with. By a man it says he shouldn't be alone with a guy because he might kill you, and by a woman it says he should be alone with a guy because of arayis. So we're going to wonder soon why doesn't it mention killing as well? Why are they only worried about arayis? But then another thing is why only with a goy? With a yid alone you're allowed to be. Arayis is the yichud is aser regardless. The Gemara is about one guy, the Kavasa Gabisho Mishori, what one yid is allowed to be with a woman. But now lo yisyachet ish echad im shtei nashim, even with two women, we're worried that maybe he'll seduce them. Elabet Lassa, a yid is allowed to walk with three women. Why is he allowed to walk with three women? Because if he goes with two women, he can maybe, if one of the women go out to the bathroom, he'll left alone with one and yichud. But if he goes with three, then there's never yichud. But by goyim, even three not allowed to. Fred the Gemara Kavose Gabi so prutzim Yisrael. We're talking about yidden similar to goyim. Goyim are are not very promiscuous and further and yet worse. So yidden the same situation. Also, you're not allowed to even three yidden. So what's the chiluk yidden goy? Why talk about goyim versus yidden? Talk about prutzim versus shnuim. One woman, two men. But when it comes to people who are promiscuous, I feel even 10, let's say, men with one woman forbidden. In fact, we learned in Gemara and say that 10 people took out one woman in a bed, feigned as if she died, so everyone will leave her alone, and went out somewhere outside of the city, and they all was on with her. So the Gemara says, I say what the difference of Eden is. If a man and his wife is with him, there's no problem of yichud with another strange woman, because his wife is going to make sure that he'll be bad for his wife, or she'll make sure that he doesn't act untoward to another woman. Like goy, the women are very subordinate to their husbands, and they'll let him do whatever he wants. By a goy, ain't ishta mishtamarta. A goyim, the wife does not prevent him from doing whatever he wants. The act morally, Abu Yisrael, ishta mishmarta. But comes to eat, the wife does watch. Okay, but tape the shvichas dami. Why you tell me a woman should be low goy? Because we're worried about shvichas dami. Sorry, we're worried about arroyis. What shvichas dami? Says the Gemara, Isha Chashuvas Kid. Now here's fascinating how Rashi learns. Okay, everyone agrees when it comes to Isha Chashuba, that means that she's has close associations with the government. So Goyim then will be scared to touch her because they can get in big trouble. Okay, so she's Isha Chashuba, as we'll see in the Gemara soon, Bein Anoshim. Even amongst men, everyone knows that this woman is a very distinguished, eminent woman, and she's very close with the government, and leave her alone. So there's no chash of murder, but there is a chash of arayis, and therefore she shouldn't be alone with the Goy. The mir to say that she's scared from him. Rab Idi says no. Isha Clay Zaina Allah. Rab Idi says that a woman has a protection because the Goy would be more interested in having arayas with her than killing her. And once he has arayas with her, there's a certain kinship now, a certain relationship, he won't want to kill her. So according to Rab Idi, once he has arayas with her, he's not interested in killing her. According to Rab Yirmiyah, no such thing. He'll have a ride with her and they'll kill her. We had a few days ago he'll have a ride with an animal and then he'll strangle and kill the animal. No problem. But Navas, she's a chushuva. So my benayu. At the end of the day, both of them say you cannot be alone with a guy. You cannot be alone with a guy because either he might kill you, or like Rabbi Yirmiyah says afterwards, or arayis. What's the difference? And only Isha Chashuva he won't kill. But Isha Chashuva he won't kill, but it's also Al-Sarois. And Rabbi Yirmiyah says that the reason is because he won't kill her, not because he's Chashuva, but because he's having a Rayis. So what's the difference? Either way, now be alone because of a Rayis. Ike Benais. Now this is how Rashi learns. It comes up an unbelievable halacha, and I can't remember the Pasuk can bring down but this is what Rashi says. Let's learn how Rashi learns. Ike Benayu Isha Chashuva Bein Hanoshim. And according to Rashi's Gisa is ve'ena chashuva bein hanoshim. It's not two different answers. It's one woman. What do you mean chashuva bein hanoshim? That she is close associations with the government. What do you mean she's not chashuv amongst the women? So Rashi learns she's ugly. Women respect someone who's pretty, attractive, and she's not. So now says Rashi like this. As far as murder is concerned, he'll kill a Yiddish woman, but not if she has close association with the government. But if she's not pretty, so there's no chash of murder, but nor is there a chash of arayis because he's not interested. There's no problem of yichud with a woman who's not attractive. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, if a woman is very well connected and she's not attractive, she's allowed to be alone with a guy. Murder is no chash, arayis is no chash. Mashenkin, according to Rabbi Baravin, don't care if attractive, not attractive. Any woman, he's interested in arayis and he's not going to kill her. So a woman who has no connections, a woman has no connections, according to the, so two arguments. A woman has no connections, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, he'll kill her. According to Rabbi, you won't kill her because he'll rather have a rice. A woman who has connections but is unattractive, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, he's not going to do anything to her, not even a rice. According to Rabbi Zera, who cares attractive or unattractive? So it comes up a big chiddush according to Rashi. A woman who's not attractive, there's no din of yichud, isra of yichud anywhere. Says Taisus, how come no one in the Gemara ever figured this one out? Taisus says, go throughout Shas when it talks about yichud and kedushin and all other places. Nowhere does it even give a hint that it depends how attractive the woman is if there's a chash of yichud or not. He says no such thing. Yichud is also whether there's attraction or not attraction. And he was a different shot thinking about it. Chashuba does not mean attractive or not attractive. Anyway, let's continue Gemara. Interesting Rashi here. Talking about it further. Tainik was Rabbi, but look, Rabbi Barabin, Isha, a woman, Afapi, she will look like a body. It says like what? That a woman, Afapi, Shalamima. Let's say that he definitely won't kill her. Why? Why won't you kill her? Because he'll rather have his nus with her rather than killing her. Like this Yachid Imam, Nechshun al Arayis. Never, he said, no, but he won't kill her, but don't do it because the Arayis part. It makes no distinction here whether she's pretty or not pretty. This is follow Rabidi. All women, as far as murder is concerned, no problem. But as far as the right is concerned, there's always a problem. It's exactly Lavidi. But actually, a man should be with alone than to the money. So now the Gemara says we learned there was a chash we had in Gemara Erevin that you shouldn't live alone. One yid with the other going in the same place because we're in those days. Anti-Semitism was extremely rife, and they had no problem killing a yid if they could. So the Gemara gives you a number of suggestions, recommendations of how one should behave to make sure that you protect yourself. You should always be vigilant. Extraordinary. But the Gemara is telling you here, it's not halacha. The Gemara is telling you here how one should be vigilant, and therefore they become halachas because they're smart to not just saying you can't be a victim. You have to always be on top of your game. So here are a few strong suggestions. Talk about we learn Yisrael Yich and his damin leivachomedech. You're walking down the road, suddenly a guy, you chance upon a guy. Toifla liyamina. Always make sure the guy is on your right side. Always make sure the guy's on your right side. So your right hand is between you and the guy, and therefore, and you're right. Most people are righties. Obviously, if you're a lefty, then you should be the other side. But when it comes to a knife, it depends. If the guy has a sword, so he might usually the sword is good on the left side. So if the guy had a sword, then make sure he's on your right side, so you have your right hand there. You can stop him. Or the makal, if he has a stick. Teufel the Smilik, he has a stick, he'll use his right, has to gain force, right? With a stick, he has to lift it up and whack you. So since he'll be a righty, he'll be using his right hand. Stand on his right side, so you prevent his hand from going up in the first place. So that's a better protection. Then it continues, you're walking up steps, or you're going down, never be in a predicament where you're below and he's above, because whoever's on top has more control. You should always be above. You should never bend down in front of him, even to pick up a wallet or whatever it is. Shema Yorut says, go he might smatter your skull. If a guy asks you where you're going to, and you're not allowed to lie, but in certain cases we had more Beilam it says that you're allowed to lie, or in the Chafal base there, and you more Satan of Samach, it's like more Yavamis, Samachal, the certain Shalom Bais you're allowed to lie, or Dr. Shalom you're allowed to lie, or the Puria and all that, you're allowed to lie, or Shpiza, here you're allowed to lie as well, because the Pasha is in danger. Always tell them you're going somewhere far further than you're intending to go. And the idea is they'll always try to attack you when you get closer to your place, further from your original place, because they feel safer, they don't know anybody around. But you'll never get there because you're going to turn off way, but you're going to detour before that. I plan to go to Seder one day. Seder was much further. He never made it there. He actually stopped off at Sukaisa. Why he did that? So if Esav had any bad intentions, he'll leave it to the very end, and Yaakov won't be there. So Ma'aseh is a story of two stories. One happened in Eretz Yisrael, and one happened in Bavel. Ma'aseh betamidei Rabbi Akiva, the student of Akiva, Holchim l'Kziv, they were going to a city called Kziv. They met Jewish robbers. Amrlen, not to Holchim, so where are you going to? Amrlen, La'aku. We're going to Akku, which is further than Ksiv. Kivon Shegil Ksiv, as soon as they came to say Ksiv, Pirshu. They made a tour to go to them. Omlan Tamida, the Tamid really was going on there. There's assets in Tamid Miatim. Talmidim Yatim. Who's Talmidim are you? They said, Talmidim Rabbi Akiva. Who's Talmidim are you? They said, Talmidim Rabbi Akiva. They said to them, Asher Rabbi Akiva v'Talmidim shalei poga ben Adam Rama Olam. Praiseworthy is Rabbi Akiva and Talmidim that they never got hurt because they were so smart and cunning that they make up stories so that to protect themselves. So even though they were listing, they only had praise for Rabbi Akiva. That's the robbers of Eretz Yisrael. The Israeli robbers have their chedes for Rabbanim. They had no problem stealing from them, but they said nice things anyway. But Rav Menashe, so he was from Babel. And what happened to him was that Ozel lebeit Torah. He was going to a place called Beit Torah. So Poga Beganvi, he met Jews coming there as well. Amrule Lankal, where you traveling to? Pumbedisa, which is much further than he was going. Kimot lebeit Torah. When he came to Torah, Padish, he made a detour. Amrule Talmide the Yehuda Ramad. You must be a student of Rabbi Yehuda Mashmol, Rabbi Yehuda Barab, the famous Rabbi Yehuda, who is a cunning, sly, conniving person. So they said a very derogatory thing. He said to them, Yaditale, you know my Rebbe, that he is a cunning and deceptive person. You should all be in Chedim for mocking my Rebbe. Oslu, they continued of the Gneva, so they continued their profession to continue gambling. 22 years, and they were not successful in their Gnevas, at least against Eden. They were not successful. And they realized then why, because he put them in Chedim. And the din is after 30 days, if you don't ask Mechila, then you're going to stricter. Kivan and Shamta is a lower level of Chedim, but it's still Chedim. Kivan the Chazu, also when they realized it, also Kulu Tavashamtai, they all came to him and asked him to remove their Chedim, and I guess they asked Mechila and for insulting Rabbi Yehuda. There was one weaver, he refused. He was too arrogant, and he was refused to go ahead and to ask Mechila for insulting Rabbi Yehuda. And guess what happened? A lion ate him up. Interesting. This is a bubble. So not only do you have lions at the soul like Tanakh, and we had all these kusim who were geirei aroyas, they became geirei out of fear of the lions. In Babel also they had lions. Babel was a desert. What were lions doing in the mamish in the desert? Anyway, Hainu the Amri Inche. This is what the people say, that a girdana, a weaver, the light taivan that doesn't have any humility, shasa batzim, and he will lose time from his life because he'll be put in chedim and they're arrogant, the chutzpanyakis. Tochazi, the Gemara concludes. Look at the difference between Galvei Babel, the least in Eretz Yisrael. Least in our worst thing I love him. Least in our brazen chutzpah, they stay openly and they don't care if they don't have to hide their face. They don't come in the middle of the night and dug somewhere subterraneanly to break into your house. They come out openly and yet they had their chedes for Rabbi Akiva. And in Babel, the Ganavim, those who are very discreet, yet they had zero their chedes. I'm not sure what the point of that is. Okay, there was their chedes, at least for Tamid Chachamim in the camps of the listing. And I've seen tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem. Have an easy time.